got some breaking news here on a Thursday morning. The Cincinnati Bengals are signing tight end Noah Fant. Fant, of course, was drafted by the Denver Broncos, spent some time playing for the Seattle Seahawks, and now he will play with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Going to be breaking down my instant reaction and thoughts here on today's show. But remember, when Cincinnati Bengals breaking news happens, we've got you covered here at Bengals Breakdown with a video, so don't miss out on any Cincinnati Bengals breaking news. Hit that subscribe button right now if you haven't done so already. It's youtube.com/Bengals TV. We've got you covered with all breaking news, and obviously we will have videos throughout the preseason, which is almost here, and of course the regular season, and hopefully the postseason as well. So help us out, help yourself out as well by hitting that sub button for me right now. All right, let's just kind of break down who Noah Fant is as a player, and then we'll kind of talk about his impact here potentially with the Cincinnati Bengals. So Fant, of course, was a former first-round pick. This is a guy that was highly touted out of high school and, of course, highly touted out of Iowa. He spent 3 seasons with the Iowa Hawkeyes and was taken in the first round of the 2019 draft, selected at that 20th overall position in that year's draft. So he spent a couple of years playing with the Denver Broncos, and I think ultimately that's kind of when you saw him really play his best football, kind of, I would argue, just from an eye test perspective, that is. But then he got traded to the Seattle Seahawks. If you remember, he was a part of that Russell Wilson trade that, of course, sent Wilson over to the Denver Broncos, and then, of course, Noah Fant and lots of draft picks were headed over to the Seattle Seahawks in that process as well. And really, for Denver, goes down as one of the worst trades, right, that we have ever seen. But he was a part of that all-rookie team, PFWA, all-rookie team, first team All-Big Ten in 2018, and third team All-Big Ten in 2017. This is a guy that has a lot of size, right? And he's going to fit in really nicely with the weaponry that Cincinnati already has at its disposal when you're talking about, of course, your receivers. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, Yoshi and Burton and Jones are reportedly having great camps as well, but he's going to fit into that tight end room really nicely as well. It's kind of headlined right now by, of course, Mike Gesicki and, of course, Drew Sample, but he's going to fit into that room really nicely, and I think at the end of the day, this is a very positive situation for the Cincinnati Bengals. More on that in a second, but I do want to get to the pinned comment of today's video. What is your one-word reaction to Noah Fant signing with the Cincinnati Bengals? One word. Let me know what that one-word reaction is in the comment section of today's show, at the pinned comment, by the way, of today's video. All right, so people might be scratching their head a little bit saying, well, we don't need this. We need, an interior offensive lineman. Kind of reminds me of the Cincinnati Reds, who actually made a move yesterday acquiring Ke'Bryan Hayes from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And it's like, well, we need a guy that can hit, right? We don't need a guy that can necessarily pick it at third base. But the argument for me is the same. You're better today than you were yesterday before you acquired Noah Fant. And the first thing that I think about when I think of Noah Fant is I think of yak, yards after the catch. That's something that your tight ends, it's a really solid room, but apart from Mike Gesicki, nobody really has that ability to get those yards after the catch. That is something, one, that Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor really love because Jamar Chase can do it so well, but you don't really have that from your tight end. Noah Fant is going to bring that to this offense as well. And also you have to understand that he's a big guy. He's a really big frame, and he's a really, 6'4", 250 pounds, right? He's a guy that can really be a red zone threat for you as well. We see Yoshi kind of be that guy. Higgins and Chase are always going to be those guys as well. But I think Noah Fant in the red zone is something that could be really, really significant for the Cincinnati Bengals as well. And on top of that, people will say, well, he can't block. And to this point in his career in the NFL, that is a true statement. Noah Fant hasn't really been a guy that can go out there and be a big-time blocker. So he's definitely more of a Mike Gesicki type of player than a Drew Sample type of player. So, the Bengals in their tight end room, other guys are going to have to be doing the blocking. Can he improve in that regard? Sure. Hopefully, right? I think all tight ends need to block in some capacity, and he's got the size to be able to do it, but he's definitely more of kind of like a receiver-esque player than somebody that is just strictly, a tight end that can really block really, really well. So hopefully that improves, but your blocking tight end, that's going to be Drew Sample, and then beyond that, we'll see. Does Cam Grandy make the team? My opinion, I think he probably will. But there's going to be some guys that are going to be on the outside looking in now after this Noah Fant acquisition. And the guy that comes to my mind immediately is Tanner Hudson, right? And we've talked about Tanner Hudson a lot on the show. I think he gets some unwarranted hate from the Bengals fan base because really his career in Cincinnati has been pretty solid. But when everybody thinks about Tanner Hudson, they think back to week 1 of last year against the New England Patriots where he fumbled on the goal line. And you can make the argument that had that not occurred, Cincinnati probably wins that football game and probably makes the postseason. And then we'll see beyond that how late they would have been playing. But Tanner Hudson has had a really solid career with the Cincinnati Bengals, the role in which that has been asked for him. But it's hard to imagine him making this football team now with Noah Fant on the roster. We'll see exactly how many tight ends Cincinnati keeps, right? They've fluctuated how many they do throughout the years. But I think it's going to be really interesting because Noah Fant's now a shoo-in to make this football team. So the 3 shoo-ins, of course, are Mike Gesicki, Drew Sample, and now Noah Fant, who will be that next guy. Will they take 5 guys? Again, they've done that in the past. Tanner McLachlan was a guy last year that they took in last year's draft out of Arizona, and they wanted him to have a roster spot because they figured if he was on the practice squad, he would get swooped up by another team, and that's not something that they wanted to have happen. And look, if McLachlan can't prove that he can be a guy that can go out there and play, because he hardly played at all last year for Cincinnati, I think he only suited up in 2 games and really did nothing in those 2 games at all. He's not going to just be given a roster spot again this year. He's got to actually go out there in the preseason and earn it and then show that during regular season football games he can make an impact for his football team. So that's going to be interesting. Tanner Hudson, of course, going to be interesting as well. And Cam Grandy, who got a 1-year deal this offseason and really has done a great job, I think, in the role that's been asked. He's another undrafted guy, right? Zach Taylor talks a lot about, hey, if you're an undrafted guy, you want to come here to Cincinnati because you're going to have an opportunity to make the team. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly happens with the tight end room as far as who makes the team and who doesn't make the team. But with this addition of Noah Fant, there definitely is going to be a guy that is on the outside looking in. Speaking of Tanner Hudson, let me know. Do you think Tanner Hudson will make this football team for the Cincinnati Bengals? Sound off for me in the comment section. Type Y for yes or N for no. Again, Cincinnati is in a spot today where they're better than they were yesterday. And I think that really is a significant improvement. I'm excited to see what Noah Fant can do. And Noah Fant's been a guy, by the way, that lots of teams were, after his release from the Seattle Seahawks, lots of teams wanted to visit with him, inquire with him, and ultimately try to sign him. But he picked Cincinnati. And it's really kind of a no-brainer to me why a tight end would pick the Cincinnati Bengals, considering the track record that tight ends have with the quarterback Joe Burrow. What does Joe Burrow do? He gets tight ends paid, right? You saw it with C.J. Uzomah. You saw it with Hayden Hurst. You see it now with Mike Gesicki, right? That's a pretty good track record here to this point. Irv Smith, obviously that situation did not work out. But for the most part, Joe Burrow shows a lot of love to his tight ends, and he gets them paid. And I think that probably is why Noah Fant is coming here to Cincinnati. He also wants to win, right? To be a part of this offense, are you kidding me? With Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor calling the shots, Dan Pitcher, of course, as well. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Yoshi, Charlie Jones, Chase Brown. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The weaponry on this offense is next level, and it got even better today after the signing of Noah Fant after he was released by the Seattle Seahawks. So I don't blame him at all for wanting to come to Cincinnati, and it doesn't surprise me at all that that is the case either. And I do want to wrap this up by just saying, yeah, we would like to see another move be made. Tight end, right? There's spots where you feel like, you were pretty good and you didn't need to add to that spot. Well, they decided to add a tight end anyway, and Bengals really loved him. The visit went really well, and they wanted to add him. They're better today than they were yesterday. We like to see, more signings here as time progresses with the offensive line. Sure. Perhaps a guy on the back end of your defense. Sure. We would like to see it. As the offensive line, I'm a little worried. It seems like year in and year out, we go into training camp, and then, the defense just owns the day. Really, it's kind of been a theme for the past few years. The defense is kind of owning training camp, and then obviously you get to the regular season, and that was not the case last year with your defense. But the offensive line's been a little shaky. Joe Burrow, Jake Browning have not gotten clean pockets at all. Fortunately, that's what Burrow is used to here at this point, so we would like to see another offensive lineman. We'll see how long they run it with this group before saying, okay, this is not going to work. We can't roll this out in week 1. But that's obviously a topic for another day. But Cincinnati Bengals sign Noah Fant. He ultimately decides to pick Cincinnati over several other suitors. Overall, I think this is a good day for Cincinnati, as ultimately their team is better here on Thursday, July 31st, than they were yesterday.